Hey folks, welcome to the show. And hello, Cheryl. How's it going?
It's going very well, and I'm going to say what I say every time, but I'm super excited today.
Yeah, we have with us a French security researcher slash ethical hacker. He has kind of developed somewhat of a cult following here in India because he kind of ruffled some feathers when it came to Aarogya Setu and the Aadhaar ecosystem. He's much better known by his, I would say, I don't know, pseudonym, plom de nom, whatever you want to call it, Elliot Alderson. And his real name is Robert Baptiste Robert. I don't know. I've heard both versions. Welcome, Robert. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi. Thanks to having me today. I'm very happy to be here.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And so, Robert, obviously, I kind of gave a bit of a background to you. I mean, I'm sure most of our listeners already have a fair bit of sense on the kind of work you do. But would like to just start off with, I would say, like a bit of an explainer into your work. Because I'm sure there will be some guys who are technologically more challenged than you'd like. But like you kind of describe yourself as a security researcher. You mainly, I mean, what my perception is that you often test products which have some sort of a public service endpoint to see if there are any privacy breaches or there are some security issues, and then you flag them to the authorities. So it has it kind of sits on a moral gray line of how things stand. And I'm sure you obviously get a lot of praise for it, but often you also probably sit on the wrong side when it comes to governments. What exactly is your philosophy? How do you approach your work? How do you visualize it?
So as you said, I'm spending a big part of my time looking at application, website. It can be some governmental website or application in India or in another country, because I also looked at application in my own country, in France, but also in the US. And I'm analyzing this application. I'm taking this application, looking for security issues, security vulnerability, and if I'm finding something, I'm trying to report it to the owner of the website or the application. And once I managed to get a contact with the owner of the software, I'm trying to report it to him. But sometimes it's a little bit complicated, because if it is a government, for example, you can have a lot of you can have a large number of people in this project. You can have a lot of people working on the same application, and sometimes it's super complicated to have the guy who is responsible of this particular application. So this is why I'm using Twitter, and I'm using the audience I have on Twitter in order to get a direct contact to this person. And in general, it's working quite fine. Mm-hmm. I managed to have a direct contact very frequently when I need it. And the overall philosophy of what I'm doing, of my activity, is just to say, okay, I am a technical person. Mm-hmm. I am able to find some security issues, and the goal is to have an impact on what we are doing. So if I can help governments, if I can help companies to fix their security issue, I will do it. So the idea is to serve the public good and say, okay, we have something which is not okay here, and you have to repair. And everyone should be aware that something is not okay here.
And it's you have, obviously, like you said, you're a highly technical person, and why does this, especially data privacy, interest you so much? Is this is it driven by your own personal passions or inspirations, or also is because you think that's a real problem statement in today's day and date in terms of how technology is evolving?
The answer is both. And obviously, I'm quite passionate by my work, my job, and on what I'm doing. But I also think that privacy in general is in danger in our current society, and we need to do something to protect it. And the big issue we have right now is that people don't see the benefit of having a privacy, and it will be too late once privacy will be gone. So we have to explain to people what is the privacy and why we need it, why we need to protect it, and why it's important to ask the correct question. For example, when people download an application from a very random developer on the Play Store, they have to ask themselves, okay, what is happening? What data this application is taking from my phone? Is it important? Is it worth the risk? Do I really want to use this application? So they have to understand that if something is free, they probably pay with their data.
But I mean, like, to understand the mechanics of what you do, I mean, and you've been very transparent about it, right? You often blog about what you are doing in real time. You tweet about it so that, everybody's in the loop that this is something that, like there's a project that you have shortlisted and now you're going to, execute that in real time. But I mean, the mechanics is very counterintuitive for a non-technology person, because effectively you kind of it's almost like you are creating like a proxy breach in an application to test it. Is that a good way of characterizing that?
So to explain what I'm doing, for example, when I'm analyzing an application, especially an Android application, but this is the same thing for iOS, you have two main parts when you analyze an application. The first part is to decompile the application. So you will take the binary and you will open the binary in order to get some decompiled source code. So this is not the actual source code, but this is something very close to the source code, and you are able to read it, go through it, and understand, see the methods defined on this kind of thing, and you can have a first understanding of what is happening. And then you have the dynamic analysis. The dynamic analysis is you are using the application in a control environment, and you are controlling everything. So you look at what files are opened by the application, what network requests are made by the application, and then you will collect a lot of data. You have everything related to your application, all the activities done by your application, and then you are able to study everything, analyze everything, and see, okay, when I clicking on this button, the application did this network request. This network request has some parameters, and I can modify these parameters and play with it. And yeah,
that's a lot of highly technical work. Are you doing that by yourself? Do you have a team which helps you around it, or how do you manage your time? Because that's a lot of work, right?
Is it a day job? or is it something you do on top of your day job?
Yeah, so what I'm doing on Twitter is not my job. So I'm not paid for that, and I think it's very important to continue this activity for free. So I am a freelancer for years now. So I have two companies at this moment.
Yeah.
So I'm running this business on this is an activity related to security, but not totally. So I'm doing some consulting for companies, and also I have another company which is developing a product in order to fight disinformation. And on the other side, I have what I'm doing on Twitter. So I'm doing that alone.
Right.
And yes, it's taking a lot of time, but yeah, I'm trying to handle. I'm not sleeping a lot. So.
Right.
And we obviously being based out of India, what really caught our eye recently, at least, was your commentary on one of the apps that was used, that came into existence with a COVID-19 tracing mechanism narrative, and it was called Aarogya Setu, which you've written about a fair bit. You've written articles on it, and you've tweeted about it as well. it really interests us on, what are your high level views around it, and, what is your key observation, which you think is worthwhile to share?
So to put everything in the good context,
Yeah.
I studied a lot of contact tracing application. So since I think it was end of March of this year, I saw that contact tracing application will become something big. All government will create a contact tracing application. So I decided to collect all the application, all the project made all over the world on studies their application. So I analyze one of the US contact tracing applications, the French contact tracing applications, the Swiss ones, the Norway, Italian, all these applications. And I also study the Indian contact tracing application, Aarogya Setu. And I analyze the application, the Indian app, just after the release. And I analyze also the same app 1 month after.
Right.
What I found is two issues. One was a small security issue, a small medium security issue, and another one was a privacy issue. So the security issue was not a big deal, but you were able to read an internal file of the application. So it was not a big issue, but still, after my report, the Aarogya Setu team fixed the problem.
Right.
And the privacy issue was the most important, in my opinion, was the most important problem, because in the application, you have a feature in order to know how many people are infected by COVID-19 around you in a circle with the radius of your choice. So,
just to understand, when you say you can, I mean, if basically, like when you were talking about the mechanism, which you adopt, in terms of, when you say you, it has to be some technical person, right, who will be able to view the details.
This is for example, you are talking about the file, internet file. No.
So, like in Aarogya Setu, like when you're like, I think you're referring to the location data, right?
Aarogya Setu, in the Aarogya Setu app, you have a feature in the main screen, in the main screen where you can click on the, I think it was 500 meters, 1 kilometer, 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, and you know how many people are infected by COVID-19. And what I did is what I explained before. So I looked at the network request made by the application when I click on this button, and I managed to intercept the request, the network request made by the app. And in this request, I saw that they were, I think, the request had 3 parameters, something like this: the location, the coordinates, and the radius of the circle. And when I looked at the application, when I looked at this request, there were no limitations at all on these parameters. So you were able to modify the radius. So I was able to ask a circle of with a radius of 100 meters, and you were able to modify a location, the location of your choice. And this is what I did in my article. I decided to draw a circle around the Indian Parliament of 100 meters in order to know if someone was sick in the Indian Parliament, but also in the Prime Minister office and this kind of official places.
Right. I mean, but like the variation of values that you were able to do. I mean, the idea is not that a layman can do it, but someone who knows how to access that part of the app can do it, and there is no authentication, there is no kind of a closed loop from the application at that end.
Well, it's spoofing the location on the smartphone is not that complicated. So obviously, in order to modify the radius of the circle, it's a little bit more complicated, and you have to be a little bit technical. But modify the location is quite easy on Android, and this is a common practice, let's say, in the Android community. So it's not really a big deal. On the main issue, the main problem with this feature, in my opinion, is you were able to center this circle on a particular house, for example, in order to know if someone was sick in this house. So it will indirectly reveal the health status of someone you know. So yeah.
And I think you did hear back from the Aarogya Setu team also, right? There was like a very generic kind of a response.
Yeah, we saw that on Twitter as well.
Yeah, it's so I asked a contact to their team. I don't remember, but I received an email from them. I sent a report, and they didn't answer first. And few hours later, they decided to publish a press release. So they sent me their press release by email, and at the same time they publish it on Twitter too. So it was not really a discussion. It was more me sending my report and then sending a press release in order to do some damage control or things like this.
But was there any was there any change implemented on the application side?
Yes, they so the first security issue has been fixed by their team, and regarding the privacy issue, they decided to add some limitation on the server side. So, for example, if you decided to draw a circle with a radius of 50 meters, they automatically give you a circle of 100 meters, which was 500 meters, which was the minimum value. So they added some check on the server side, which was clever, because after that, all the technical person who looked at the application was like, no, it's okay, there is some limitation, you don't see it, and that's all. But it's because they fixed everything on the backend side.
So your intervention did lead to certain impact, even though they were defensive about it. It led to certain impact, right?
Which is cool. Yeah.
Yeah, no, so that's great. When we're talking right now, you're using two different levers. Like one is a security issue and one is a privacy issue, right? And as I'm a fairly non-technical person when it comes to this.
I think that became evident in the last 10 minutes.
Last 5, yeah. So why is security is fairly straightforward to get, but privacy concerns, like it's such a moving target, right? Everyone has different views on it. Like a general view is, oh, you know what, like Google knows everything about me anyway. I mean, there is that kind of mindset that is there, which you see quite often, and including myself as well, right? I just take it for granted that big companies like Google already know everything about me, where I go, my traffic, like Google Maps, via transactions. What are your views there?
Yeah, so as you said, privacy is a little bit different. And I mean, when you have a security issue, there is no real interpretation. You can interpret a security issue then, but it's more complicated because you have fact, and this is the impact of the security issue, and everyone is quite agree on if it is a big issue or not. Regarding the privacy is something quite cultural. It's really dependent of where you are living, of your country, of your people. I mean, privacy in China doesn't have the same meaning than privacy in Europe. This is the same thing with India. So we don't have the same meaning for privacy. And the problem we have at this moment is app developers can be everywhere. So you can be a Chinese developer creating an application, and this application will be distributed all over the world. Because for you, privacy doesn't have the same meaning, you will implement some quite invasive methods in your application, which is unacceptable for European folks. So you have to when it comes to privacy, we really have to explain what privacy is in general. And as you said, a lot of people are like this. Google knows already everything, so I don't really care. But the question is, it's not because Google knows everything that you have to give your data to everyone. And this is not a good thing, that Google knows everything. You can use some alternatives to some Google services. And the main question when it comes to privacy is to say, okay, I need to do some trade-off, because yes, Google Maps is very cool, very convenient when I am out, and I really like to use Google Maps. But I have to keep in mind that when I'm using Google Maps, I'm giving my location to Google. So is it okay for me? So if it is okay for me, I mean, use Google Maps, it's fine. But if after having after asking this question, if it is not okay for you, you have to look to an alternative and use another service. And this is the same thing for all the application you are using. So this is why giving your data to a random app developer is not okay, because you have no idea what you will do with your data. And there is a little specificity with Aarogya Setu, which is a governmental application. When it comes to government, you have no idea how your data will be used, because contrary to a random app developer, a government has an additional power, which is a political power. He is able to force you to install an application, as we saw with Aarogya Setu. And this is where it's very dangerous, because if you allow him to force you to install an application, or to ban an application on the very random criteria, he can do whatever he wants, and he can control what you will have on your phone. So this is why you have to fight this kind of decision, because if you allow him to decide, okay, Chinese applications are not okay, so let's ban it in India, and application from another country, he can ban an application he don't like, because criteria doesn't really matter. So yeah, this is important to attach fact to all the decision. I mean, I'm quite okay with India banning Chinese application if something bad was revealed. I mean, if this Chinese application are dumping a lot of data from their user, I mean, fine, ban the application, ask Google to remove it, ask an update to the developers. But be Chinese is not enough to ban an application.
Yeah. I mean, naturally, I mean, when we look at the recent banning of Chinese apps, I mean, it definitely has a very strong geopolitical tinge to it. And I mean, obviously the national security point is more a defensive excuse rather than the actual reason. And I'm sure a lot of the observers also kind of, understand that. But, I mean, I just want to there's an interesting point you made earlier that, when you look at privacy, do you think then the same government or the same regulator has to take the lead in terms of setting the rules of privacy, for the simple reason why, I mean, if you look at like a Google or a Facebook application, one approach is they become absolutely transparent about every aspect and ask your consent or permission for every data point that they collect. And, I mean, and a lot of the data points which are collected by these applications do improve the customer experience at the end of the day. And that's why they kind of are doing that. And a lot of the customers might feel that, okay, man, I mean, I might as well just, press a tick and go okay and approve all of them. right? And an objective conversation of privacy doesn't happen because there is just so many rules and so many, checks which are required. Most customers would just, go ahead. And the second approach is that you have a very, centralized control from the state, from the regulator, which clearly makes it, clearly makes a demarcation that which data is okay to collect and which data is not okay to collect, irrespective of whether consent has been given or not. So which are you? I mean, I have a feeling I know the answer to that, but which school of thought do you,
you can have both in reality, because for example the second option you describe is data protection law, and this is what we have in Europe, for example. So a few years ago GDPR has been approved by the European Council, and this is by the European Union, and GDPR has a lot of advantages because it allows company to have data protection in mind. I mean, I'm not sure some penalties has been decided yet, but a lot of companies were before GDPR has been adopted, a lot of companies were rushing to modify their source code because they were afraid to be condemned by because of GDPR, and to get some big fine. So the idea is just to push companies to say, okay, data protection is something, and if you don't comply to this regulation, you will be fined. So please modify your source code. So I think this is a good solution, and all countries should have a data protection law, because it's a right all citizens should have. Then we also need how can I say that, people should push companies to be more transparent, as you said, and to explain why they are taking this data and this data. And we should be in control of what the application is taking. And today, all the controversy, for example, around TikTok is based on that, because people have no idea in reality what TikTok is getting from their phone, and they can imagine a lot of things, and they are just afraid. So if we can explain again with fact, if we can say, okay, I listened to the network request made by TikTok, and I saw nothing super suspicious, so it's okay. Don't be suspicious, and it's fine. So we really have to explain to people what is really happening under the hood, and if companies can do that and explain with a nice UI, give control to what data is taken by the app, it would be a good thing.
Yeah. So, like we were discussing, TikTok obviously made a lot of news here as well, and now I think even US is sort of making some noise around it, and it's obviously more geopolitical rather than security and technical stuff. But how easy is it for someone with basic knowledge of coding and software programming to actually develop an app which is devised to just collect data? Like, does it require like real solid core technical skills, or is it fairly common? Because you see a lot of hacking, a lot of news come up about hacking. This server's getting breached. This app was collecting that data. There was sometimes about apps recording voices and calls. Like, how easy is it to get around and do stuff like that in this age?
If you have some coding skills, and if you are interested by the topic and you want to code this kind of thing, this is not complicated. Sure. You can do it very easily, and I'm also studying malware sometimes, some Android malwares, and for example, you have a lot of example, so you can take some source code of a random malware and just copy paste the source code and add it in your application. So if you want to do it, it's just a matter of hours in order to code it. So the main question then is the detection, because in Android application, in the mobile world in general, distribution of your app is a key. So coding some invasive method is not complicated, but be able to distribute this application through the Play Store is more complicated, and avoid the detection is more complicated. So you have to obfuscate your source code, do some stuff like this in order to not be detected by the Play Store.
Right, right. I'll just take a kind of detour towards Aadhaar, because I know that it's been some time since you obviously touched that, but because it's something, it's kind of a hot debate here. It's an ongoing. I mean, there are pros and cons of the overall Aadhaar ecosystem. A lot of people have kind of come on the grid within a country, of the size of India, where you have like 1.3 billion people, not a lot of documentation. Aadhaar kind of gives that umbrella platform of of identity, of greater financialization. But on the other hand, obviously there are some serious privacy concerns and issue. That the entire Big Brother narrative also falls into the picture. The government always says that I mean, if you've done nothing wrong, why are you worried? But that's a very slippery slope to take. But I recall, like within your blog, when you kind of went into Aadhaar in a fair amount of detail, you actually, I think, try to work on an application of a gas company or LPG marketing company, right, in Dane, and you found a breach at the application level, in the sense that, like in your blog, you mentioned due to a lack of authentication in the local dealers portal, Indian is leaking the names, addresses, and Aadhaar numbers of their customers. So I wanted to understand, so was the breach at Aadhaar level, or was it the breach more at Indian level? Like if you could walk through the mechanics of that as well, I think that would be very helpful.
Yeah, so if I remember correctly, this breach was at the Indian level. So first, we found a website, Indian website, where the Aadhaar number was available. So I managed to develop a scraper in order to get all the data from the website, and I wanted to know how many Aadhaar numbers I was able to get with this website. If I remember correctly, the number was just insane. It was millions of
6.8 million.
Yeah, 6 millions of numbers, so it was a big breach. And I used one of the Indian application in order to get additional info. And I used this info in the website in order to get more Aadhaar numbers. So I analyze the website, then I analyze the application, and I use the info found in the application in order to get more from the website.
So it's effectively like, I mean, Indian obviously is a utility, so it has many dealers all over the country, and those dealers are onboarding customers, and they are collecting Aadhaar as well as address details. So you could actually get info at the dealer level.
Yeah.
Okay. And how did that pan out? I mean,
Sorry?
How did that pan out once you flagged that? Like obviously you had some sort of an interaction with the Aarogya Setu team. In case of Aadhaar, how did it actually pan out?
Regarding in Dane, so it was a little bit complicated because I didn't know where to poke. So I contacted a US journalist working for TechCrunch. We tried to contact him then by the official way. So he sent a press statement to Indane and asked them to repair that before he published an article. So they never answered. So we decided to publish the article together. So I published my blog article and he published his his article on TechCrunch,
Right.
and I think it was 15 minutes later,
Right.
the website has been they took down the website.
Okay.
So they saw the article, and a few minutes after they took down the website in order to fix the issue.
That's awesome, because whatever your Aarogya Setu or this one, like the loop seems to get closed, or the problem seems to get addressed. That's good. Do people reach out to you requesting to buy data because you were good at it, and like do people just randomly ask for, oh, you know what, can you help me get this data and I'll pay for it and things like that?
At the beginning, yes, I got some requests like that, saying, okay, for example, for Indane, a lot of people sent me a message saying, oh, okay, you have 6 million of Aadhaar numbers. Can I buy that? And I never, the idea of what I'm doing, as I said previously, is not to earn money from my Twitter activities. So I'm here to protect and defend privacy. So it's not for, I will not sell any data. This is not my business.
I mean, interesting. One thing I wanted to kind of get your brain around was, it's very difficult to not make these conversations, political. I mean, even like, like you're being pretty transparent about how you approach, but and unfortunately, Twitter doesn't have that much of a sense of humor, and I think satire and irony, many people don't understand it, because I recall, I think you posted like a very funny GIF with Rahul Gandhi or something, right? Do you ever get accused that, oh, are you on the payroll of the Congress party or something like that?
Yes, all the time. And and this is quite funny, because I also analyze the Congress application, and so I analyze the Narendra Modi application, the Namo app, but I also analyze the Congress application app. I also analyze some Congress website, and I mean, I don't do any difference between the political parties, and I'm not even Indian, so I don't really care about the political side. What I care is really my topics, so privacy and data privacy in general. So I mean, this is just funny, and I'm trying to
dabble with the political humor, though.
yeah, I'm trying to play with that, and but sometimes it's a little bit complicated, because this is quite cultural, and you have to take care of what you are doing. So I'm trying from time to time to have some posts like this.
Right. What is the road ahead for data privacy? Like, I mean, GDPR was a good step in that direction in Europe. Do you expect like global standardization in the privacy acts, or do you think it will be more country by country in terms of?
Because I think in India the privacy bill is still
it's in process.
It's not really out there, right?
So every country seems to be working on some kind of mandate, but there's no global standardization as such. So what do you think is an optimal way forward?
I don't think we will have something global, because the question is too hot for countries, and as we said, this is very different from countries and from culture. So in general, so I don't think we will have something global, but we probably will have some GDPR clone all over the world. Yeah.
Right. And any country whose privacy regime or whose data protection regime you admire? Someone doing the job well?
That's a good question. Not really.
Right.
Not really.
I mean, you probably do put Europe at a slight premium above the rest.
Sorry?
You probably do put Europe at a slight premium above the rest due to GDPR.
Sorry.
Europe is slightly above the rest, partly driven by GDPR as of now.
Yeah, I didn't get the first word. So, sorry.
No, I was saying that you're saying that perhaps Europe is, as a continent, is performing slightly better when it comes to privacy issues because of GDPR. Do you agree?
Better, I don't know. I don't think so. But we are clearly in the good direction, and GDPR is the first step in the good
At least as a
direction.
framework, which is something that you probably are happy about.
Yeah, and it's putting a philosophy on the table, saying, okay, data is important, you have to respect your user privacy. And I think more than the details, I mean, all the details can be modified, adjust on this kind of thing, but the philosophy behind GDPR is pretty good.
Right. I know that I think this has been very, very insightful. Robert, or should I call you Baptiste? I don't know. I wanted to ask you.
Or
Baptiste.
Baptiste is so that's your first name, right?
Yes.
Right. I know. Thank you so much, Baptiste. Well, I've been addressing you with your last name on all my emails, so thanks for clarifying that. But
doesn't matter.
But no, thanks a lot for taking the time for this very interesting chat. And I think we learned a lot, and I'm sure our listeners also kind of just by getting into the mechanics of how these things work often gives a lot more clarity to where the initiative or mission is coming from.
Yeah, and no, it was very helpful, and for folks who are technical or non-technical, it's good to hear the motive and how it works. So that was a very helpful chat. Thank you so much.
Thanks to you.
Great. So yeah, with that, we'll be back soon with a new episode. And this is Nikhil Arora.
This is Charlotte Tupran
signing off.